we're breaking down exactly what awaits us in the second season of One Piece. What will really happen when Luffy's about to be executed? How will the Laboon encounter explode within the season? Will Zoro's legendary battle scene finally appear in live action? A fight to the death with dinosaurs on Little Garden, Baroque Works' secret plans, Chopper's heartbreaking story. We're analyzing everything one by one. Has the CGI really improved? What will be the biggest surprise of the season? Let's see what we should expect this season. We're diving straight into the Grand Line. Netflix's second season of the One Piece live-action series is now fully opening the gates of the Grand Line. And honestly, both the fans and I expect the world building to go far beyond what the first season delivered. The warmth and sincerity of East Blue were great, but now we all want to step into that wild, dangerous, myth-filled sea. That's why I expect the season's tone to be much bigger, much wilder, and much more emotional. Especially that fateful moment in Logtown, Luffy on the execution stand needs to be filmed with such atmosphere and camera work that it gives us chills. This moment is the first real test of Luffy's dream of becoming a pirate, and I want to see it portrayed powerfully in live action. One of the parts I'm most curious about regarding the Grand Line transition is Reverse Mountain and the Laboon encounter. Even seeing Laboon partially in the trailers already gave me a burst of excitement. My expectation is that the Laboon scene carries both emotional weight and mesmerizing visuals. The promise Luffy makes to the whale is one of the fundamental moments that defines the Straw Hat's sense of friendship. So I hope Netflix captures that bond with the right tone. Epic yet innocent, humorous yet heartfelt, just like in the manga, but even more impactful with the realism of live action. On the Whiskey Peak side, I expect the season's pacing to completely shift. It will be the first time Luffy and the crew are targeted by an organization, with Baroque Works' secret plans, and especially Zoro's iconic moment with the bounty hunters. Honestly, I want that scene to shake the screen. When done with the right choreography, Zoro taking down the entire town alone could become one of the most shared sequences of the season. And Vivi's introduction in this arc carries huge responsibility in both political and character development terms. I expect Netflix to portray Vivi in a way that reflects her innocence, yet also hints at the leader who will one day carry Alabasta's fate. Little Garden demands a completely different energy. Dinosaurs, giant warriors, and the moments where Usopp discovers his courage. This arc has an incredibly fun vibe. And I hope they don't make it too dark in live action. A slightly stylized, slightly fantastical, and slightly comedic tone could make this section truly special. I think it's important to capture a proper sense of scale in Dorian Bragi's scenes while preserving the island's wild yet warm spirit. Because this is the island where the Straw Hats first realized that the Grand Line is truly an unusual place, and that feeling needs to fill the screen. And then there's the most anticipated part of the season, Drum Island. To be honest, this is where my expectations are highest. Because Chopper's story, combining his cuteness with Hiriluk's past, represents the very heart of One Piece. Netflix using CGI for Chopper is a bold move, but if done right, it could define the entire season. I expect Chopper to embody both his sweet and sorrowful sides at once. Hiriluk's final scene, the message that people die but their dreams don't. When executed correctly, this season could reach legendary emotional levels. Not just adventurous ones. From the first look CGI we've seen, I actually liked it. Compared to Season 1, it already looks like a serious improvement. Conveying the Grand Line's chaotic nature will be one of the most critical elements of Season 2. I especially want scenes that make us feel how unpredictable the seas are. The weather should turn from sunny to snowstorm in seconds, compass logic should break, the ship should get tossed around by massive waves, because this madness is exactly what defines the Grand Line. I believe live action, with a bigger budget now, will build this atmosphere visually in a powerful way. These scenes don't just expand the world, they make the viewers feel like they're on the adventure with the Straw Hats. I also expect the crew dynamics to settle even further this season. The Zoro-Sanji rivalry, Usopp's little lies becoming increasingly hilarious, Nami being both the captain's right hand and the brains of the crew. The first season captured this chemistry well, but during the Grand Line era, character relationships deepened significantly. I especially want to feel Luffy's bond with his crew more strongly. The promise to Laboon, the conflicts at Whiskey Peak, the sacrifices on Drum Island, all these moments will show why Luffy is a true captain. As these bonds grow, the audience should truly witness the Straw Hat family forming. I also expect Baroque Works to be handled as a darker and more serious threat. Morgan, Buggy, and Arlong were villains with different tones in Season 1, but Baroque Works is a hidden organization. Their plans are more organized, political, and deadly. I want their presence to be felt like a looming shadow across the entire season, not just as isolated arc villains. Even the slightest hint of crocodile would emphasize the scale of what's coming. Vivi's slowly unfolding identity and the ties to Alabasta's fate will also strengthen the overall tone of the season. Fight choreography is also at the top of my expectations. The first season was already good in many scenes, but now that we're in the Grand Line, the bar naturally has to rise. Zoro's dual-wielding attacks need to be more fluid, Sanji's spinning kicks more dynamic, and Luffy's rubber powers more creatively utilized. I especially want to see Luffy use more strategic and entertaining gum-gum techniques, not just basic punching. In the second season, Luffy should feel like a more experienced captain who has adapted to the Grand Line's insanity. Finally, balancing emotional tone with action is extremely important. This has always been One Piece's magic. One moment you're laughing, the next your heart is breaking. I expect Season 2 to preserve this balance. Dramatic scenes should have stronger music, lighting, and performances. Especially Chopper's past, Vivi's inner conflicts, and Luffy's decisions for his crew, when done right. These moments turn the season into more than just an adventure, they become unforgettable storytelling. My expectation is exactly this, a big, epic, yet heartfelt season. One of the biggest things I want to see in Season 2 is the Straw Hats, slowly discovering their identities within the Grand Line. The first season explored everyone's past and motivations to a degree, but now the real test begins. This sea plays by different rules, and each character must redefine themselves within this madness. I especially hope Usopp's burst of courage in Little Garden becomes even more emotional and motivating in live action. Usopp's journey from coward to hero is one of the most human elements of the story, and portraying it strongly would deepen the season's emotional impact. Nami's role this season is also critical. Her navigation skills become literally a matter of life and death in the Grand Line. I expect the show to highlight Nami's stress, sense of responsibility, and the effort she puts into keeping the crew alive. Because the Grand Line's weather, currents, and magnetic field chaos will showcase just how indispensable she really is. I want to see Nami as the strategic brain of the Straw Hats. Especially in storm scenes, putting her at the forefront could powerfully convey the feeling of a character who leads in the midst of real chaos. Sanji's development might shine even more this season. Leaving Bharati was emotional, but in the Grand Line, Sanji evolves to a whole new level with his combat skills, comedic charm, and big brother role within the crew. I particularly want the show to capture his polite attitude toward Vivi, along with the emotional support he provides during dramatic moments. In combat, Sanji's kick-based techniques should be filmed more cinematically. When real footage and stylized fight choreography blend well, Sanji's energy gains incredible vibrancy. Of course, the emotional weight of the season will largely come from Chopper. My biggest expectation is that his sweet yet tragic qualities are balanced effectively. Netflix took a real risk with Chopper's design, but with the right lighting, facial animation, and voice acting, he could absolutely define the season. If they convey the depth of Hiriluk's past, Dr. Kureha's tough but loving mentorship, and Chopper's isolation, the audience will never forget these episodes. I especially expect the Sakura scene from Hiriluk's storyline to be visually breathtaking. That scene is the soul of One Piece. It must deliver the same impact in live action. Finally, it's important that the overall world of the season feels bigger and more organic. East Blue had more limited locations, but the Grand Line is a place full of endless possibilities and weirdness. I expect Netflix to be bolder with set designs, ship scenes, and island-defining details. The wildness of Little Garden, the frozen geography of Drum Island, the grave-like mountains of Whiskey Peak. When these differences are portrayed correctly, each episode can feel like watching a new movie. That's exactly my expectation, that each island has its own spirit and that this spirit is communicated to the audience like a film throughout the season. Another crucial element this season is the growing sense of danger. The enemies in East Blue were smaller in scale, but in the Grand Line, everything changes. I especially want to see moments where the crew genuinely faces life or death danger. This raises the narrative stakes and strengthens the audience's attachment to the Straw Hats. Baroque Works' organized attacks, Mr. 3's psychological pressure, the threat of getting lost in a snowstorm, when handled correctly, even viewers who don't know the anime will find the season far more gripping. Feeling the harshness of the Grand Line is essential for grounding One Piece's world in reality. At the same time, the show must maintain its humor. One of One Piece's best qualities is how the characters keep their fun personalities even in chaotic situations. In the second season, I especially expect Luffy's unpredictable reactions, Usopp's imagination, Sanji's exaggerated politeness, and Zoro's terrible sense of direction to blend naturally into the story. When comedic timing is done right, it makes the dramatic and action-heavy moments hit even harder. That balance will define the soul of the season. On the visual effects side, I expect a significant upgrade. Laboon, dinosaurs, giant warriors, Chopper's full transformations, Drum Island's winter storms. All of these already show how ambitious the second season will be. I especially want to see an aesthetic where live-action footage blends more seamlessly with CG. In a fantastical world like One Piece, merging realism with comic book energy is not easy. Netflix seems to be pushing for this exact balance, and the first-look footage suggests the visual tone is stepping forward. If they maintain this balance, the live-action world will feel even more convincing. Another expectation is stronger use of music and emotional transitions. The music in the final episodes of Season 1 was incredible, and I expect the Grand Line era to amplify that atmosphere even further. In sad scenes, I want minimal yet impactful melodies. In adventure moments, I want broader orchestral tones. Look's scenes, Vivi's internal struggles, Luffy's sense of responsibility as captain, when paired with the right music, these moments will hit directly in the heart. Music is one of the key elements that keeps the emotional core of One Piece alive. And finally, the most critical part of the entire season, in my opinion, the Straw Hats truly becoming a family. This season, every character reaches a more meaningful stage, both in their individual stories and in their place within the crew. By the end of the season, I want viewers to feel this is where the real crew finally began. A finale where Luffy's leadership strengthens, Nami becomes an irreplaceable strategist, Zoro and Sanji show absolute loyalty, Usopp finds his courage, and Chopper finally gains a home. If the season closes with this emotion, the transition into the Alabasta era for Season 3 will rest on an epic and unforgettable foundation. That's exactly what I expect. A finale that is big, emotional, and opens a solid door to the future. If you enjoyed this video about what to expect from One Piece Season 2, then go ahead and like the video right now, drop your own expectations in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more detailed content like this. Because in the next video, we're diving even deeper into the chaos of the Grand Line, and you won't want to miss it.